Imagine stepping into your office and finding an entire workforce already running, highly precise, utterly tireless, and operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, this isn't science fiction anymore. This is really the next frontier of artificial intelligence, and it's what we're diving deep into today. Collaborative, multi-agent AI teams. We're kind of shifting from thinking about AI as just a single assistant
Right.
to designing, well, an entire digital organization.
That's exactly it. And we're pulling together insights, specifically drawing from Zahir Ahmad-Mir's work in AI Mastery for Professionals. We're really focusing intensely on how you actually build the architecture needed for this big shift. We're moving beyond just simple automation. It's about coordinated, really complex execution now.
Our mission today, well, it sounds simple, but I think it's pretty transformative. We want to equip you with the fundamental structures of these systems, sort of the technical scaffolding, if you will, and the specific specialized roles involved, and maybe most critically, why thinking of AI as a team is just absolutely crucial for getting productivity at scale.
Hmm.
It's really about building a digital workforce that executes your strategy while, you focus on the bigger picture, the vision.
hmm And by the end of this conversation, you'll get a handle on the three core architectural mechanisms that let these agents work together smoothly. We'll cover the actual job descriptions for, say, a four-agent digital team, and maybe most importantly, why the human role, that strategic oversight, aligning values, becomes even more essential than before. It's a deep dive into becoming, well, the chief architect of your own automated future.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Let's start with that conceptual leap you mentioned. For the last few years, we've sort of been trained to see AI as this powerful, single tool like a supercharged personal assistant.
Right, the single chatbot model.
Exactly. But the sources we're looking at challenge that view, like completely. The efficiency of just one agent trying to do research and writing and analyzing and scheduling.
Well, it's inherently limited, isn't it? There's just too much role confusion.
Absolutely.
We need to stop thinking of AI as that single assistant and start seeing it as an entire digital organization.
This is the fundamental shift, really, moving from that singular capability to distributed intelligence.
Hmm.
Think about the analogy of a small business, right? If you ask one person to handle marketing, accounting, product sourcing, and customer service.
Yeah, they ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their overall productivity just tanks
Yeah.
because of all the context switching and, the fragmented knowledge. Their efficiency is capped by just being one person.
That context switching is key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every single time that lone agent shifts tasks, maybe from drafting a marketing email to analyzing website traffic,
Yeah.
it has to reload a whole new set of rules and data in its head. Precisely. It's inefficient. But a multi-agent system, or MAS, fundamentally changes that whole output equation by basically eliminating that friction. By definition, these are multiple AIs, communicating, coordinating, and dividing complex tasks amongst themselves, all to achieve one single complex goal. They don't just share a server farm somewhere. They actively engage in collaboration and, crucially, dependency management.
So it's not just different programs running side by side. They're actually interacting.
They have to interact. And the core principle here is specialization. Just like, a human company divides its work into departments, sales, marketing, operations, the digital enterprise has to assign distinct roles to different agents.
Makes sense.
Yeah, the core principle of a functioning MAS is that each individual agent specializes in a pretty narrow defined role. So this means one agent might focus purely on data verification, another purely on generating content, and so on. By specializing the roles, and also the data access needed for just those roles, the system as a whole maximizes its overall efficiency and, this is critical, the quality of its output. You're essentially building a virtual company where every department is an expert AI focused only on its specific job.
Okay, so that gives us the what and the why we even need a team structure for AI. Now, let's get into the really critical part, the how. How do these distinct AI entities, each one specialized in a separate function, actually manage to work together without it all just devolving into, digital chaos? This feels like the core of it. Let's dive into section 2, the architecture of collaboration.
Right? This is where we shift from the concept to the actual implementation. The architecture is the technical underpinning of the whole system. There are three crucial mechanisms that allow for this seamless collaboration. And honestly, if any one of these is weak or missing, the team just collapses back into a bunch of inefficient individual tools.
Okay, so 3 key mechanisms. What's the first one? What binds them together and ensures they're all, working from the same playbook?
The very first one, and it's non-negotiable really, is shared memory. For an AI team to function coherently, Every single member has to be able to access the same playbook, the same project history, and the same real-time updates on the state of the project.
So everyone's on the same page, literally.
Literally. And in the MAS context, shared memory is, well, it's more than just a shared folder of files. It's a structured, accessible knowledge base. Often this is implemented as a specialized database or, increasingly popular now, a vector store.
Okay, hold on. That technical detail sounds important. Why specifically a vector store? What does that enable?
Good question. It's because the information needs to be instantly accessible and semantically searchable by all the agents, regardless of what they specialize in. So the research agent uncovers some crucial piece of market data. That finding has to be ingested, indexed, and made available to, say, the content agent and the analyst agent almost instantaneously. We're talking milliseconds.
Wow, okay.
This structured, shared memory ensures that continuity and consistency across what can be really complex workflows. It prevents any agent from having a fragmented or, worse, an outdated understanding of the project's current status or its objectives. Basically, it solves the problem of Agent A acting on information that Agent B found out was wrong 5 minutes ago.
Got it. So it's the central, single source of truth for the entire digital organization. Everyone's drawing from the same well. But just having access isn't enough, right? They need rules for actually handing off tasks from one to another. What's the second mechanism?
Right, exactly. Access is step one. Step two is communication protocols. This is the formal, standardized language and structure that defines the internal handoff system. It defines exactly how Agent A notifies Agent B that its task is complete, and crucially, what specific format the output data will take for Agent B to use as input.
So we're moving beyond just a general notification like a ping. This needs to be machine readable and super specific, right?
Absolutely. Think of it like a formalized programmatic workflow chart, but dynamic. These protocols dictate the required output format. Maybe a finalized analysis delivered only as a JSON schema, for example. The receiving agent, Agent B in this case, is specifically programmed to accept that schema as the signal to kick off its own workflow.
Might see.
The protocol also dictates exactly what input parameters are needed for the next step and the rules of engagement. What triggers what under which conditions.
That level of standardization must be absolutely critical for speed. I can imagine if the content agent is waiting for a research summary, but the research agent just dumps an unstructured PDF.
Oh, the system grinds to a halt.
Yeah.
The content agent then has to waste time trying to interpret the other agent's messy output. It breaks the flow entirely.
So enforcing these structured data formats like standardized APIs or using schema validation is key.
It's absolutely key. You ensure near zero friction in the transition from one specialized task to the next. These protocols manage the flow, they eliminate those communication bottlenecks, and they make sure that the digital supply chain of information stays fast and really efficient.
Okay, so we've got shared knowledge, the shared memory, and standardized handoffs through communication protocols. But, as we know from any team, human or otherwise, even with perfect information flow, priorities can shift, contradictions pop up. What mechanism manages that internal discipline? How do you stop them from arguing, essentially?
Yeah, digital arguments. Well, that leads us straight to the third crucial mechanism, the decision hierarchy. This is basically the chain of command within the AI team. It's necessary to maintain order, focus, and critically handle what's called weighted optimization. A specific supervisor agent is usually designated to manage priorities and resolve any sort of low-level conflicts or scheduling issues that crop up between the subordinate agents.
Okay, a supervisor agent. How sophisticated is this agent? Is it just acting like a simple scheduler, or is it actually making strategic calls based on the situation?
It does more than just basic scheduling. Its role is actually weighted optimization based on the meta goals set by the human architect, the person who designed the system.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Let's say the human architect mandates that the overall system must prioritize speed of content delivery over, say, maximum depth of data verification. The supervisor agent enforces that rule. So if the research agent flags a finding as, let's say, 80% confident, and digging deeper for 95% confidence would take another 12 hours. But the content agent's deadline for publishing is only 4 hours away, the supervisor agent steps in. It resolves that conflict by directing the system to proceed with the 80% confidence data now, because the overarching priority is speed as set by the human.
Ah, I see. So it's not just managing workflow. It's dynamically enforcing the strategic priorities set by the human. It's constantly aligning the individual actions of all those specialized agents back to the high-level business objective.
Exactly right. You can think of the supervisor agent as the project manager for the whole system. It uses real-time data coming in from the other agents via the shared memory to prevent contradictory actions or gridlock. So these three elements together, shared memory, communication protocols, and the decision hierarchy, are what really elevate a collection of AIs from just being tools into a cohesive, productive, and self-regulating digital team.
That framework gives us a really detailed picture of the scaffolding, the underlying structure. Now we can start putting the workers in place, so to speak. Let's move on to section 3 and talk about the specialized roles themselves, the actual team roster. Because as you said, these aren't just generic AIs. They have pretty concrete job descriptions and specific mandates that ensure efficiency.
Yeah, and defining these roles clearly is probably the critical first step for the human architect. It allows you to design the system based on the output you actually need, rather than, trying to force one general-purpose AI to juggle complex multi-stage tasks inefficiently.
Okay, let's start with the foundation then, the research agent. We touched on it, but you mentioned its role is more than just basic data retrieval. What does that specialization really entail for a, let's say, professional grade system?
Its function is highly refined, yeah. It moves way beyond just simple web searches. Its primary function is, of course, finding data and summarizing massive volumes of information efficiently. But here's the critical value add, especially for a professional audience. It must be tasked with a verifiable, probably multi-step process for ensuring accuracy and source verification.
Okay, so how does that verification actually happen within this architecture we've discussed? How does it prove its work?
Well, the research agent's protocol, its operating instructions basically, would require it to cross-reference its initial findings across a minimum number of high-authority pre-approved sources. These sources would be defined by the human architect. Then it has to assign a confidence score to its output.
A confidence score.
Yeah. And if that score falls below a preset threshold, let's say the human sets it at 95% confidence, the agent must flag that piece of information within the shared memory. This flag could then trigger the supervisor agent to deprioritize its use, or perhaps send an alert back to the human for manual validation or decision.
So it has built-in quality control and an escalation path. It's not just acting like a librarian finding books. It's more like a verified investigative journalist that actually understands the limits of its own data integrity.
That's a great way to put it. Correct. Its specialization is absolutely ensuring data integrity before that information gets passed down the chain.
Wow.
Because think about it, if the content agent starts drafting articles or marketing copy based on flawed data from the researcher.
The whole effort is wasted. Or worse, damaging.
Exactly. The entire output is compromised.
Okay, that makes sense. So next up in the typical workflow, we have the writer or content agent. If the researcher provides the verified facts and data, this agent handles the, complex transformation of that into persuasive or informational output, right?
Precisely. The content agent's primary function is really versatile production. It takes the verified data from the research agent, delivered via that standardized communication protocol we talked about, and generates output that's specifically tailored to the channel and the audience, again, as defined by the human architect.
So it's not just writing text.
Oh no, much more. This includes producing highly specific text, yes, but also generating accompanying visuals, maybe drafting video scripts, and even executing full campaigns. For example, deploying marketing materials across various specified channels, like social media, email, blogs, and dynamically adapting the tone, style, and length for each one.
Wow. So we're talking about trading multimodal output text, images, maybe video concepts across a whole bunch of diverse platforms, LinkedIn posts, Twitter threads, email newsletters, blog articles, all potentially generated simultaneously, all based on the same core verified data from the research agent.
Exactly. It's the creative engine and the implementation arm of the team. Its efficiency comes from being purely focused on that translation and production aspect, without needing to bog itself down with data validation or performance analysis. Those are separate jobs.
Which brings us neatly to measuring success. You can produce amazing content all day long, but if you don't know if it's actually working, if it's achieving the goal, you're just spinning your wheels, potentially wasting resources. That leads us to the third role, the analyst agent.
Yes, the analyst agent. Its primary function is sophisticated interpretation and measurement. Its job is to continuously monitor the execution and impact of the content agent's output. It takes the raw performance data, things like website traffic metrics, conversion rates, social media engagement figures, sales data, and translates it into meaningful, actionable insights. These insights are then fed back, usually to the supervisor agent and ultimately to the human overseer.
Can you give us some concrete examples of the key performance indicators, the KPIs, this analyst agent would typically track?
Certainly. It would focus on KPIs defined by the human architect, naturally. Things like cost per acquisition, CPA, for marketing campaigns, maybe sophisticated attribution models, trying to figure out which channels actually drove the best results, predicting customer churn rate based on user behavior metrics, or measuring progress through a sales funnel against historical baselines. Critically, its output isn't just a spreadsheet of numbers.
Right.
It's designed to be a constant diagnostic report. It should identify why performance is succeeding or failing, linking it back to the initial strategic goal set by the human.
So it's not just reporting what we got 100 clicks, it's providing insight into the why we got 100 clicks because this specific ad copy resonated while that other one failed, suggesting we should shift budget. This allows for really rapid course correction.
That's the goal. It is the feedback mechanism for the entire system. Its insights are immediately fed back into the shared memory, making them available to all other agents. And crucially, these insights often directly influence the behavior and tasking of the final agent we need to discuss, the planner.
Okay, and that feels like the final piece, the glue holding the entire operation together, the planner agent.
Yeah, the planner agent really handles the organization, the strategy execution, and importantly, dealing with resource constraints. Its primary function is pretty robust. It organizes all the tasks flowing through the system. It sets the internal deadlines for each agent to complete its part. It manages the overall allocation of resources, maybe like budget limitations for ad spend set by the human. And it manages the overall strategic workflow timeline to ensure everything lines up.
So the planner isn't just setting a static schedule at the beginning. It sounds like it needs to be dynamic, adjusting based on the real-time reports coming from the analyst agent.
Oh, absolutely dynamic. That's crucial. When the analyst agent reports back, hey, this specific ad campaign is severely underperforming, burning cash, the planner agent doesn't just ignore it. It dynamically reprioritizes resources. It might schedule the content agent to immediately produce alternative creative copy for testing. Simultaneously, it could schedule the research agent to conduct a quick competitive analysis. What are competitors doing successfully in this space right now?
I see.
It ensures that all the various outputs, the research, the content creation, the analysis, are delivered in the right sequence and at the right time to meet the external goal, while always adhering to the constraints like budget or deadlines set by the human architect. It's the operational conductor.
Okay, so these four agents, the researcher finding and verifying, the content agent producing, the analyst agent measuring, and the planner agent organizing and adapting, they really form the foundation of a robust, potentially self-managing digital enterprise. It sounds incredibly powerful in theory, but this is where it gets really interesting for me. Seeing this actually brought to life. Let's look at some specific case studies and really explore Section 4. How does this work in practice?
Yeah, let's do that. We can start with the anecdotal scenario provided in the source about Nimra, the e-commerce entrepreneur. This example perfectly illustrates the concept of leveraging this MAS structure for genuine round-the-clock productivity, allowing the human role to shift almost entirely away from day-to-day execution.
Right. Nimra's setup uses 3 core agents, a slightly simplified version, to run her e-commerce store. Can you detail how that coordination works, especially when she's, not actively watching the dashboard?
Okay, so Nimra, the human, maintains focus solely on the high-level vision stuff, identifying potential new products she wants to develop, or negotiating major strategic partnerships, things humans excel at. Meanwhile, her digital company runs 24/7. Her research agent is programmed to continuously track market trends. Maybe it's monitoring social media chatter for early signs of demand shifts in a specific niche, like sustainable fashion, or perhaps detecting competitor price changes on similar items. That information, as soon as it's found and verified, is immediately logged into the shared memory.
So it's like having a passive, continuous market intelligence feed running constantly, 24/7.
Exactly, and it's actionable. When the research agent detects a significant trend change or a competitor action that needs certain criteria, that event triggers the marketing agent via the communication protocol. The marketing agent, specializing in production, then drafts and schedules daily content, maybe social media posts highlighting newly trending style, email alerts about a competitor's price drop matched by Nimra's store, promotional copy for a flash sale on items related to the trend. It ensures continuous customer engagement, and it can react almost instantly to market signals identified just moments earlier.
That's incredibly responsive. And what about the crucial, often high-volume logistics side of e-commerce? Inventory, customer questions.
Right? That's handled by the third agent in her setup, the operations agent. This agent is tasked with managing inventory levels in real time, automatically updating product listings across platforms if stock runs low, and crucially, handling the constant stream of customer responses. It can answer comment time, frequently ask questions instantly, process standard returns according to Nimra's predefined rules, and intelligently route the more complex or sensitive queries directly to Nimra herself for personal handling.
Hmm.
By delegating all three of these essential but time-consuming functions, research, marketing execution, and basic operations, Nimra's time is completely freed up. Not just for rest, which is important, but for those high-leverage activities, developing genuinely new product lines, negotiating better deals with suppliers, building brand relationships, tasks that require human creativity, negotiation skills, and intuition.
That really is the ultimate goal, isn't it? The human focuses on high-leverage strategic decisions, not getting bogged down in repetitive execution. But okay, that's a compelling anecdote. Let's look at a more formal professional agency example where the success metrics are perhaps even more tangible, more documented. We have this example from the source material about a Pakistani digital agency that leveraged this multi-agent structure specifically for client marketing campaigns.
Yeah, this professional use case is excellent because it highlights the immediate, measurable impact that this kind of specialized coordination can have in a really competitive commercial setting. This agency specifically built a multi-agent marketing team, and its primary goal was to dramatically improve client reach across various digital platforms.
So how did they divide the labor among their AI agents for this specific marketing task? How did they ensure that rapid feedback loop, that analyst to planner to content cycle we discussed earlier?
They designed it precisely as a rapid, self-optimizing system using those specialized roles we defined. One AI agent, acting as the content agent, was tasked solely with drafting and A/B testing huge volumes of social media posts and ad creatives. Its job was high-volume creative output, constantly adapting the message based on the target platform and the performance data coming back.
Okay, generating lots of options. And how did the system figure out which options were actually working?
That was the job of the second agent, their dedicated analyst agent.
Yeah.
This agent was constantly running performance diagnostics in near real time. It reviewed engagement rates, click-through rates, conversion metrics, ad spend efficiency for every single creative variation the content agent put out. It logged those results immediately into the shared memory. And then, crucially, the third agent, which acted mostly in an optimization role, sometimes this function is folded into the planner or supervisor agent, focused only on improving SEO parameters for organic content and fine-tuning the ad spending allocation based only on the hard performance data provided by the analyst agent.
So it becomes a tight, closed loop system. Draft, analyze, optimize, draft variations, measure what works, shift resources to the winners, repeat. And this loop operates continuously, potentially without any human intervention needed in the actual execution phase.
Exactly. The human sets the strategy, the budget, the goals, and the ethical guardrails, then lets the system run and optimize within those parameters at machine speed.
Okay, so what was the measurable outcome? Did this highly coordinated digital workforce actually deliver results for their clients?
The source material is pretty compelling on this point. It states that together, this coordinated effort resulted in tripling client reach within a single quarter.
Tripling reach in one quarter, that's a phenomenal result.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the key takeaway is that this wasn't achieved simply because they had a single powerful AI. It was achieved because the specialized coordination enabled extreme speed and efficiency. The system could, for example, test 10 different variations of an ad, analyze the results coming back from the platforms, and automatically redistribute 90% of the ad budget to the single, highest performing ad variant, all potentially within minutes, not days or weeks, like a traditional human-driven process.
Human teams just cannot maintain that sheer level of speed, data processing, and adaptive strategy execution 24/7.
Not at that scale and velocity, no. It's a different paradigm.
Okay, that tripling of client reach really drives home the power of MAS. Now, let's try to move into Section 5 and synthesize the big picture from all this. What are the major benefits we can clearly derive from these structures, based on the theory and these examples? And then, critically, let's talk about the essential human governance required to keep these powerful systems aligned and safe.
Right. When we synthesize the advantages demonstrated, both in Nimra's 247 operation and the agency's tripled reach, I think three major benefits of using multi-agent systems really jump out immediately, especially for professionals looking to implement this.
Okay, the first one seems pretty obvious from the Nimra example, continuous collaboration.
Yes, definitely. Because these agents are integrated via those structured communication protocols and the shared memory system, this enables continuous collaboration, which leads directly to round-the-clock 247 productivity. The digital organization, as we called it, literally never sleeps. It never takes a holiday. It processes information the instant it becomes available. For businesses dealing with global markets or high-frequency data like finance or real-time bidding, this can essentially eliminate operational downtime entirely.
A huge advantage. The second major benefit, and this one directly impacts the human role we keep circling back to, is the sheer power of delegation.
Mhm. This isn't just delegating simple tasks anymore. It allows the human manager or architect to delegate entire complex workflows, the kind of high-volume, repetitive, yet data-intensive work like continuous market analysis, mass content generation, and real-time performance tracking. The human role, as a result, pivots almost entirely.
Hmm.
You move from being a task executioner or even a middle manager overseeing tasks
Yeah.
to being the strategic architect and the system reviewer. You delegate the management of the inventory, the creation of the content, the tracking of the trends, so that you, the human, can focus your limited time and energy on major strategic planning, innovation, and relationship building.
And that delegation, combined with specialization, leads to the third advantage, which we saw kind of baked into the research agent's mandate specifically. Accuracy improvement. You mentioned that requirement for cross-validation.
Absolutely critical. The MAS architecture, when designed properly, mandates built-in cross-validation checks between the specialized agents. Since, for instance, the research agent must verify the data before the content agent is allowed to use it, and the analyst agent immediately tracks the real-world success or failure of the content agent's output, the systems are constantly self-checking and correcting. This inherently improves the overall accuracy and reliability of the final output compared to a single AI trying to manage multiple complex steps with potentially lower internal accountability or error checking.
Okay, but let me push back on that slightly. Doesn't that cross-validation process and the necessary handoffs between agents using those protocols, doesn't that introduce some latency? If you're making multiple agents talk to each other and verify each other's work, isn't that inherently slower, even if just by milliseconds or seconds, than one giant monolithic agent just doing everything at once? Is that trade-off always worth it?
That's an excellent, really critical question to ask. And you're technically right. Adding cross-validation steps and communication hops does add processing steps and therefore introduces some minimal latency compared to a theoretical single agent doing it all instantly. However, the trade-off is almost always overwhelmingly worth it for any complex, high-value task where accuracy matters.
Why is that?
Because the fractional delay, the tiny bit of speed you might lose by adding verification, is offset tenfold, maybe 100-fold, by the massive gain in quality, reliability, and the reduced downstream error rate. A system that's incredibly fast but produces inaccurate or nonsensical output is worse than useless. It can be actively harmful. A system that is slightly slower due to verification but highly accurate and capable of autonomously optimizing based on correct data provides compounding returns over time. Plus, remember the specialization aspect. The content agent can run at its maximum speed generating content because it's not burdened with the cognitive load of data verification itself. That task is handled efficiently by the specialized research agent, so it kind of balances out the system's overall throughput anyway.
That makes the priority crystal clear. For professional use cases, the value derived from reliability and accuracy almost always trumps achieving the absolute maximum raw speed if it compromises quality.
Okay.
Now, we've painted this picture of, seamless efficiency, specialized roles, continuous operation. But any organization, digital or human, faces challenges, right? Conflicts arise. Let's transition now to the absolute necessity of human governance. What are the key strategic challenges here that demand human oversight that the AI team likely can't handle on its own?
Right, this is crucial. The primary technical and strategic risk that the human architect needs to anticipate and manage is the potential for internal conflicts between agents. As these agents become highly specialized and driven to optimize their individual functions based on their specific KPIs,
Yeah.
there's a real risk of overlap, or worse, outright contradiction arising between their specific mandates or goals.
Okay, we need concrete examples here. How would two well-meaning specialized agents actually conflict in the wild? What would that look like?
Okay, consider this scenario. You have a marketing agent, maybe part of the content team, whose primary KPI, set by the human, is to maximize user engagement and click-through rates on social media. To achieve this, it might start generating content that uses increasingly sensational language, maybe clickbait headlines, or pushes overly aggressive promotional offers. It's optimizing for its goal.
Okay, I can see that happening.
At the same time, you have the planner agent, which is operating under a strict budget constraint for ad spend, also set by the human. Its KPI might be minimizing the cost per acquisition, CPA. So the two mandates inherently conflict. The marketing agent wants to spend more budget, perhaps less efficiently, to acquire high-volume clicks and engagement, while the planner agent is trying to conserve budget and maximize efficiency, potentially by targeting a smaller, more expensive audience.
And the result is?
The result could be a system that either overspends recklessly, burning through the budget because the marketing agent's drive is stronger, or it becomes paralyzed, unable to act effectively, because it's caught between these conflicting optimization goals defined by the human, but playing out in contradictory ways at the agent level.
So the conflict isn't necessarily a technical bug in the code, but rather a strategic misalignment driven by local optimization, each agent doing its job well versus the global overall strategy.
Exactly. And this is precisely why the human element, that governance layer, is non-negotiable. It requires what the source material explicitly calls the control layer requirement. There's an absolute fundamental need for a central human manager or human control layer that sits above even the AI supervisor agent in the decision hierarchy.
Wait, why can't the AI supervisor agent, the one we said handles weighted optimization and resolves low-level conflicts, why can't it resolve these higher-level strategic conflicts between, say, aggressive marketing and budget conservation?
Because the resolution of these deep strategic conflicts often involves making nuanced trade-offs that require things AI currently lacks. Genuine creative direction, human intuition about brand perception, long-term strategic vision that might sacrifice short-term metrics, or, critically, aligning the system's actions with the company's ultimate purpose and ethical values.
Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. The AI supervisor agent can probably tell you the statistically optimal way to resolve the conflict based only on the preset parameters it was given. Example, prioritize speed versus cost versus engagement rate. It can execute the math, but only the human can make the judgment call that, yes, this sensational content the marketing agent is proposing would maximize clicks this week, but it fundamentally violates our brand's long-term commitment to transparency and credibility, so we won't do it. The raw knowledge that the agents generate the facts, the content drafts, the performance metrics isn't truly valuable until it is understood, interpreted, and applied in alignment with the organization's human set values and long-term strategic goals.
Got it. So the human isn't down in the weeds managing the daily tasks or the specific API handoffs between agents. Instead, they are managing the vision, the strategic parameters, the ethical boundaries, and the overall value system of the entire digital organization. They are the ultimate arbiter, the one setting the compass direction, while the sophisticated AI agents are navigating the complex terrain to get there.
Precisely. That's the perfect analogy. The agents provide the best possible execution, the how, based on their specialized data and optimization functions. But only the human can truly define the why and determine what is ultimately right for the long-term health, mission, and reputation of the company. And that significant transition in the human role itself, moving from task manager to chief architect and value setter, is probably the most profound implication of mastering this multi-agent structure.
Wow. Okay, this has been a genuinely deep dive into how you actually construct, coordinate, and importantly, govern a digital workforce built from AI agents. Let's take a moment just to briefly summarize the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Yeah, definitely. I think the big picture message, the first key takeaway we really want you to walk away with is that multi-agent teamwork powered by these sophisticated coordination architectures we've discussed really is the defined next evolution of AI productivity. Thinking purely in terms of individual AI assistants, like a single chatbot, is rapidly becoming obsolete for handling high-value, complex, end-to-end workflows.
Right. And point two, building on that, is that you need to fundamentally shift your organizational thinking. Stop viewing AI as just a single tool you use, but start architecting it as an entire digital organization, complete with those specialized departments, the clearly defined roles like the research agent, the content agent, analyst, planner, and crucially, those formalized internal protocols that enable seamless collaboration between them.
And finally, the third point touches on that paradox of increased automation. While the AI team handles the vast majority of the execution and even the low-level coordination, the need for human oversight isn't minimized. Actually, it's elevated. Your role shifts away from execution management and moves firmly towards strategic direction, setting those critical weighted parameters, defining the ethical guardrails, and resolving the high-level strategic conflicts that inevitably arise.
That elevation of the human role, from manager to architect and strategist, is truly the most profound implication of adopting this kind of architecture, isn't it? It poses a big question. If your future company or even just your future department is built on these AI teams running 24/7, relentlessly optimizing, analyzing, producing, how must your role, the human role, evolve to stay relevant and add unique value?
That really is the crucial question for every professional listening to consider right now. If the AIs are expertly handling the research, the content creation, the data analysis, the scheduling, and the operational adjustments, then the human must become the chief architect and the strategic coordinator. Your unique value shifts entirely to defining the ultimate vision, setting the ethical compass, managing the organization's strategic relationship with the complex external world, and infusing the whole operation with purpose. You provide the essential why and the guiding value system so that the incredibly capable agents can handle the precise, relentless how.
So, this deep dive has hopefully given you the blueprint, the foundational concepts for starting to structure your own digital workforce. We really encourage you to start thinking right now. Which of your current high volume, complex, or multi step workflows could potentially be broken down into these kinds of specialized agent roles? Consider the efficiency gains, the accuracy improvements, the sheer productivity boost you could achieve if you deliberately inserted, say, a research agent, a content agent, and an analyst agent, and critically ensured they communicate via standardized protocols and access a shared memory system.
And as you start designing, reflect deeply on those governance challenges we discussed. When you're planning your first multi-agent team, don't just plan for the task delegation and the efficiency gains. Plan explicitly for that necessary human control layer. How will you set the strategic priorities? How will you monitor for and resolve conflicts between agent goals? How will you ensure all that continuous cross-validated productivity is actually channeled towards your core strategic vision and doesn't just evolve into optimizing meaningless metrics? The potential is huge, but thoughtful design and human oversight are key. The time for starting to build your digital organization really is now.